Fabulous. So today we're going to look at confidence, and some of you managed. I know it was a very last minute thing this week, getting the video challenge bit in, but some of you managed to do it, and that's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. And some of you possibly didn't even see that post because it was so last minute, which is fine. And so I'm going to start by asking that same kind of question. What is the thing that you're not confident about? If you want to type it up in the chat, feel free. Or if you want to quickly drop your microphone on and just tell me, then that's fine. Or just think about it for a moment. Just think about it for a moment. What is that you're not confident about? And there's a slight difference between confidence and self-worth, although they do interlace and cross over. So having thought about that, if I was to ask you if you were really sure about the fact that you're not confident with that, what would your reply be? Because the thing is, most people who don't feel they have confidence happen to be very confident about their answer, that they have no confidence. And this really gives us an insight, a stepping into what confidence is, how we can work with it, how we can develop it. So like I say, a lot of us are all confident that we're not confident, which in itself, like I say, tells us that confidence is a skill. It's not that we're not confident, it's just we're not applying the skill of confidence to the areas where we wish to apply it, those areas in our lives. See, because as a skill, we learn confidence. A lack of confidence means we are usually focusing on the wrong areas of life and telling ourselves that things are wrong for us. We're focusing on the things that we do wrong, the things that we go wrong, the things that we just feel are a disaster, rather than focusing upon the things that we do that are achievements. And, you know, looking through from one of the last videos, we all have achievements. Jackie had posted up saying about, you know, she said, oh, my achievements might seem silly, but for her, those achievements are great achievements. And we're so almost conditioned sometimes to focus on this didn't work, that didn't work, this failed, that failed. So we focus on those wrong areas, and in focusing on those wrong areas, we then feel that we have no confidence. If I was to ask you about certain areas of your life, I'm pretty sure in a conversation that you would be able to tell me all the mistakes you've made around that thing, all the ways it's gone wrong, all the times you've proved to yourself that you have no confidence by doing the same things that went wrong the last time, and focusing on those mistakes that you made in the past. And they help you know with confidence that you had no confidence. We do not improve or develop confidence by repeating our past mistakes, by focusing on those past mistakes. If we tell ourselves how we've messed up in the past, if we tell ourselves what went wrong, it just reminds us how to do it that way again in the present. And it gives us very little choice. We kind of go, I did this once and it went really wrong, so I'm no good at it, or we've done it the same way several times and we feel no good at it. And it then gives us no real scope for choice. We kind of think, well, I'm just no good at it. And after a certain while, that becomes not our concrete reality, but it becomes our believed reality, that we're no good at a thing because we keep focusing on all the times it didn't work. See, the more you look for where you can have problems, what can go wrong, the more you'll find it. To be more confident in life, we need to be more competent. It's it's a skill. So start now, today, start focusing on what you do well. There's actually going to be lots of things. The main thing you do well is be you. No one does that better than you. And you've heard me probably say that before, and I mean that from the very bottom of my being. No one is as amazing. If there was a job for being you, you're the only person in the world to qualify for it. In existence, not even just in this lifetime, in the whole of existence, nobody could mark and tick the boxes for the job of being you in this world, which in itself is amazing. So start today focusing on what you do well. And there will be lots of things. And by focusing on what you do well, you can start to learn how to do more of it. You can start to learn what your frame of mind is when you're doing well and apply it to other areas of your life. And then you can start having choices. The choice you need to look at, you have a choice of what you used to look at, what you did bad and would feel bad. And yet I wonder if you focused on what you do well, just how much better you'll feel as you do this. Rather than focusing on the things you do not and learning and relearning that, start focusing on, we're going to look at a technique which is kind of fun later at the end of this to help kind of break that cycle of focusing on the negatives or focusing on that dialogue we have with ourselves. So I wonder where you used to look at what you did badly, felt and made you feel bad. I wonder how good you can feel when you start focusing on those things that you do well, and then doing more of them, because by doing more of them, you're learning how to be confident by developing competence at knowing what you do well and how you do it. If you focus on the past whilst thinking of a concept of how you should be, should is a terrible word. Should is usually somebody else speaking in your ear from somewhere in the past. But if you're thinking about the past whilst thinking of an ideal, the perfect you, or if you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're never going to build confidence. The whole of existence is a work in progress, and we are all a work in progress, which means in each moment, from moment to moment, you are everything you can be up to that moment. Everything you can be up to that moment. And again, nobody else can be as qualified for being that you in that moment as you are. So to be more confident, we need to make plans. We need to create choices. And one of the things that can happen, I think Donna said she's got an interview coming up. And the danger we can fall into with something like an interview or somewhere where we need that extra bit of confidence is we look to the past and go, oh no, I remember this time I did it and it didn't work, or I remember that and I was so on edge that time and I just said the wrong thing. And we can do that, and we're teaching ourselves how to do it again for that next moment. Whereas if we plan and imagine the different kind of scenarios, the different kind of conversations, the different outcomes, how you will react, because that's the only thing we really have control over, is how you choose to react in any one situation. But by planning ahead, imagining the conversations, imagining the possible questions, imagining different scenarios, different outcomes, and how we would do them, and visualize yourself doing them, pick the ones that feel best to you and visualize how you're doing them. It builds confidence and it creates choice, because rather than going in blind and basing your experience on what's happened in the past, you're going in having rehearsed. You've got the ability to improvise that moment because you've already gone through several possible scenarios, several possible, everything from the number of people you're going to see in the room. You know, if you're going for an interview, sit down, take some time thinking, how am I going to be if I see one person in the room? How am I going to react to that? What if there's two people? How am I going to react to that? And plan it. It's your thoughts, your reactions. You have that control. But if you choose the best reaction to any possible situation you can imagine, and then visualize yourself in that, visualize yourself going through that, that part of your brain that doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what you actually experience is learning. It's growing. And if there are things you've done in the past that have gone well for you, think about how can I apply those to this situation, and visualize yourself again doing that thing, rehearsing. I mean, an actor gets up on a stage looking all confident. That's because they've gone through those lines so many times. They've made those moves so many times that by the time they do it, they don't have to think about it, or it appears that they don't have to think about it. And we can do this with situations where we need more confidence. And that in itself is a really good way of creating choices. The more choices you have on how to react to a situation, the more confident you can feel in it. For some, the idea of confidence is reflected more in the notion of whether they feel good enough or not good enough. Good enough, am I worthwhile? Am I not worthwhile? But as I've already said, every day you are perfectly everything you can be. What matters more than anything is just, are you better than you were yesterday? Is there a little thing you're going to do differently today that you didn't do tomorrow? If each day you make a little adjustment, a little improvement, evolve a little bit more, then you're heading in the right direction. Now, in the beginning, depending on where you come from, there was a big bang, there was a something that produced everything that now exists and is continuing to produce it. But at the beginning of that, everything that was needed to create everything else was there. And over more years and decades and millennia than we can comprehend, those elements combined, evolved, transformed, and changed to bring us to this very moment where we're sat here. The whole of existence happened to bring you to this point now where you're sat, listening, watching. Exactly where we should be. That makes you, me, and everybody else just as important as everything else in the universe. We are not separate from that universe. In the same way as your head is not separate from your foot, it's an integral and vital part of your existence. Your heads, your arms, your legs, all of it. It's not separate from you. It's a part of you. And that is the same with ourselves and the universe. If you were not here, if you had never existed, the entire universe would be different. Your life counts. If we're not happy, if you're not happy with aspects of life, you can change them. There are 3, that you could say there are more, but I kind of went for 3 because it's a nice number. There are 3 certainties. One is birth, one is death. The other is change. There is nothing in this universe that does not change with time. So to change And to take conscious control of that change is to work with the natural law of the universe. I love that. I actually really love that. To focus forward, who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? We get confidence by setting goals, by looking forward, by making those little changes every day and working with that natural instinct of the universe to transform and change. By focusing on all that you do well, you can become all that you can be. Mistakes happen, things go wrong. We can learn from them, but then we need to put them down. We need to set them aside and focus on what we do right. And I keep coming back to this. Look at the things that you do right. Look at the person you want to be. Rehearse the many different ways that you can be that person. Step into that person. Imagine yourself. If you feel that you're just lacking confidence to put yourself out into the world and really do that thing you want to do. So for me, that would be more with the training, more with hypnosis. Going and doing talks and workshops at some of the big hypnosis conventions would be an amazing thing. It terrifies me. I am not confident enough in what I do to do that, but I can get there. I can get there by seeing myself doing it confidently, looking back at the things I've done well whilst doing what I do to reinforce that I know what I'm doing, that I can do these things, and to see the me in the future I want to be, picturing that me in the future that I want to be, doing the thing I want to do. And then you can work backwards. We often kind of sit here and try and work out how we're going to get over there. But if you can imagine yourself over there, it becomes easier to see how you got there when you look back. So you can make those changes. Change is natural, and it has happened, as I said, since the dawn of existence. To not change is to go against the fundamental reality of the universe, which is quite a thing to go against, really. 3 tips, 3 ideas for, well, there's been lots of ideas, but 3 tips and ideas for developing confidence and self-belief. The first one is to persist, to literally persist, to not give up. Say, that is where I want to be, and I will not take no for an answer. And I might get knocked back along the way. There may be times that path doesn't work, so I've got to try something else. But persist and never give up, because as long as you're working towards your goal, you can be confident you're going to get there. As long as you're working towards being that person you want to be, you know you can get there. The moment you stop and give up, then you're handing that away. You're handing that confidence, that self-worth away. You're going, I'm not worth doing this. And it's easy to do that. It's easy to kind of just go, oh, do you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And then you go and do something else, which isn't what you wanted to do. And then you start feeling lousy about yourself. Because as long as you're working towards that place, you're doing the thing you want to do, even if you're not quite where you want to be. You know, maybe you want to be I'm going to use famous actor. Most famous actors are miserable, but say you want to be a famous actor, you can push for it, and then the moment you get a first knockback, I'm not going to do it, and then you feel lousy because you always wanted to do it, but now you're not doing it. Or you take that first knockback, you take the second knockback, you take the third back. J.K. Rowling, not the best example at the moment because of certain things that are up in the air, I know. But, 13 times, was it? She took her manuscript for Harry Potter to different publishers before it was accepted because she wouldn't take no for an answer. Edison with the light bulb made how many, 1,000 mistakes, or what is it? I can't remember the quote, but you know, kept doing it, and he, you know, his attitude, well, they're not mistakes, I'm just learning every time. And he kept looking at the things that did work and the things that he did well until he got to that place he wanted to be. Second tip out of the 3 is your self-talk. And I mean, I can pretty well guarantee that everything we look at in this Release Now group will have an element of that dialogue, that self-talk that you give yourself. And I mention it a lot, and it's because it is important. The things you are telling yourself dictate the experience you have of life. If you've got some sort of challenge and you go into the mindset of this is rubbish, it's terrible, my life is terrible, blah, 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 then your experience of that challenge will be terrible and life will be terrible. If you have the same challenge and you go, do you know what? This might affect me for the rest of my life, but you know what? It's just my thing. It's what I've got to deal with. It's what I've got to do. And I have things I want to do, things I want to achieve, and I'm going to keep going regardless. Same situation, different conversation in your head. And the thing is that conversation in our heads, it's your mind. You can control it. You can take control of those things, get into the habits of, again, focusing on what's good. So if you find yourself speaking kind of negatively, that, oh, you're no good, oh, no one's going to be interested. I get, you know, I get it with workshops and ideas, and I'm like, nobody's going to be interested in this. Or like the diploma group I'm doing, you know, I had a wonderful session, 2 hours. We had to do a full hypnosis session with our partner from the course, and I went first, and then Tad in America, he did the session for me. It was amazing, actually. It was just so good, and that was brilliant, and it was a wonderful, really affirming, positive session. And then we have to take a photo of the screen and post it up in the group to show that we've done it. And I put a comment, and for some unknown reason, there was a part of me going, yeah, but who's going to be interested in what you write? What you write probably isn't as good as what everybody else is writing. And I just so kind of like, what are you saying? What are you doing? I wouldn't speak to like any of you guys like that. Why am I speaking to myself like that? And it's just a habit. It is actually most of the things we do and think are just habits, which is wonderful because habits can be changed and we can learn better ones and new ones. So if you find yourself speaking negatively, immediately say to yourself, stop. I posted, ages back now, wasn't it? In I Meditate, the Richard Bandler 2-part hypnosis thing. Did I post that in there? I can't remember, but he puts it a different way. He says, if ever you find yourself with that negative dialogue going on, then there's a mantra. It's a very powerful mantra that you must use. You have that negative talk coming up. Oh, I'm no good. I'm useless. I'm never going to be this. I'm never going to be that. The mantra is shut the fuck up. Excuse my language. Just repeat it. Shut the fuck up. I don't want to know. Shut up. If you had a friend who's like that all the time going, oh, well, you're no good. Oh, that didn't work for you, did it? Oh, look, you did that once before and it didn't work. You would tell them to, yeah. And yet we don't do that to ourselves, and yet we can. So watch your inner talk, your inner dialogue, that inner critic does you no favors. If it's there, if that voice is there, just start telling it to shut up, stop, and then start focus for a minute or two on something good that you've done, something you've achieved, something positive. Get in the habit of, rather than jumping onto that critical deprecating voice, start building a confident voice. There are other things you can do. You can play with that voice. You've got a negative voice that's always running you down in your head. Change it to the voice of somebody you cannot take seriously. If you can't take Joe Pasquale seriously, change your negative critic voice in your head. So every time you hear it, it sounds like Joe Pasquale. And you watch how soon you're like, oh, mate, you might be telling me I'm rubbish, but I ain't listening to that voice. These are just techniques, and they sound a bit silly and they sound a bit simple. But actually, they do work when it comes to changing those inner dialogues, changing those inner thoughts. Another way we can, well, this kind of comes on the back of that. Whip that negative voice into place, change it, make it different, tell it to shut up, and then affirm how awesome you actually are. Take time every day to think about the things you've achieved. Or even in that day, if you've done something for somebody, made them smile, feel good about it. You made someone smile, for God's sake. And at this time in the world, that's a really important thing. And you might go, well, it's just made someone smile. You know, we've all heard stories where just a word said to somebody on a certain time, on a certain day, saved another person's life. We have that power within us to do that. We should do it for ourselves. We take time every day. Look at the things like Lisa did her traveling every day. Go over a bit of it. Go over your favorite bit. Relive a memory. I did this thing. All of us, or whatever age we are, we're still here, we're still alive. Actually, when you look at how dangerous a place the universe and existence is, that in itself is amazing. You know, 1,000 years ago, most of us wouldn't have made it past the first couple of years of our lives, and we're all still here. And use affirmation. Tell yourself you're amazing. Look in the mirror in the morning, smile. You will feel silly at first, but smile at yourself and go, hey, you're looking good and you are amazing. Because as silly as it may sound, it may even make you smile a bit when you do it. That's the purpose. Because if you're smiling, you're going to be feeling good. And you keep doing that. Tell yourself, I am confident. Tell yourself, I am confident. See, imagine, picture yourself being confident. If you don't know what that feels like, imagine you're somebody who does. Imagine, you know, if there's a, I don't know, if there's a, someone on the, I don't watch telly, so I have no people to quote. I imagine you're someone on telly. You know, there's someone that you watch and you think, oh my life, if I had their confidence, that'd be amazing. And watch what they do. Watch how they act, how they hold themselves, how they stand, how they sit, how they move. Watch them and picture yourself in certain situations acting as though you were them. Because that part of us, again, that doesn't know the difference between what we're imagining and what we're actually doing, will be learning how to be confident. Because you're rehearsing that confidence, albeit that you're seeing yourself as somebody else for a while, you're still teaching your mind. Children learn by role play, by pretending to be other people. We don't stop learning that way. We might not dress up and, you know, do it so outwardly, but you can still use your mind in that way. So if you need more confidence in a certain situation, think to yourself, I don't know, Morgan Freeman, because he is God. Morgan Freeman, you can imagine him going into to do a public speech. Maybe you've got to do a public speech. Just imagine yourself. Imagine how he would do it. See how he'd do it. You know, how he'd move, how he'd be so relaxed, poised, composed, how that voice would be so deliberate and controlled, and just the elegance of how somebody you admire would handle that situation you're struggling with. And then imagine yourself. Picture yourself as that person doing it and rehearse that, because your mind will be learning by rehearsing that. Confidence is a skill. It's not something that either is or isn't. It's something we learn, and you can learn it that way by mirroring, by modeling other people. Another really good thing to do to boost confidence is avoid negative people. Avoid needing validation from others, and avoid negative people. We've all probably had friends who kind of give us the impression they've got our back. I'm there for you, but always seem to just tug away at something, pull that rug out under the carpet. You're feeling really good about something. Yeah. Oh, but do you remember that time when you... And they don't, I'm not saying it makes them a bad person. It's part of whatever's gone on for them that makes them work that way, think that way, and do that. But if you've got friends who drain you, if you've got friends that or people in your life that you have to deal with that leave you feeling less than good, then look at ways you can minimize that time or even push them and ease them away. You want to surround yourself with people who think you're amazing. Surround yourself with people who build you up. Surround around people that, rather than when you're on a good day, go, oh yeah, but. Surround yourself with people that when you're on having a bad day, go, oh yeah, but remember how amazing you were when you did that thing. The people we surround ourselves with can help us grow, help us build, help us become so much more. And when it comes to the validation thing, just think about for a moment, if I'm walking along and I drop my wallet and you pick it up to return it to me, there's two motivations there. One, you're doing it to be seen to be doing a good deed by other people. You want other people to go, hey, you're an amazing person. You did this really good thing. And that makes you feel good for a while, but you are reliant on those other people for your feeling of self-worth, your feeling of confidence, because you're looking to them. I've done something good. Now, give me the pat on the head. You're basically handing your confidence and self-worth over to the hands of people who 9 times out of 10 aren't even thinking about you. They did a thing. I think I've said this before in other things, but when it comes to self-worth and confidence, and one of the things is like, oh, people be talking about me. They did I don't know how they tested it, an experiment survey type thing, and they came to the conclusion that 90% of the time, people only think about themselves, what they're doing, what their experience is, what they've got to do, where they've got to be. 9.999 something of the time, they're thinking about their nearest, their dearests, and their loved ones, family, nearest friends. Whatever's left of that 0.1%, they're thinking about you or me or other people. Now, I don't know, if I had money, I wouldn't want to hand it over to an investor who was only going to focus on me 0.00001 something times in a year, say. And that means maybe he gives my account a minute's thought in a year or something. I want to hand my money over to somebody who, is going to spend as much time as possible focusing on my money and making me money in that situation. And it's the same situation when we look to other people to validate us and say that we're good, to validate us and go, oh yeah, no, that's a really great thing you did. It's nice, it feels good, but it has no substance. It can as easily be taken away. And if nobody responds and you're looking out there for the validation of your self, your abilities, and no one responds, where does that leave you? I remember doing, some of you may have come across the music of Dav the Bard, and I remember being part of his rededication to the bardic tradition. And when he came to me as part of the ceremony for that, and I had to ask him 3 questions. And my final question was, what is the sadness of the bard? And the sadness of the bard is to write beautiful songs and nobody to ever hear them. And it's that same thing. It's that same sadness. How are you left feeling if you've done something good, you've achieved something, and you're looking out there for somebody else to tell you that was a good thing? However, if I drop my wallet and you pick my wallet up and give it to me, and you did a good thing, and the only reason you did it was because you knew it was the right and good thing to do. You don't care whether anybody else saw you do it, then that validation, that self-confidence, that self-worth comes from you. And that is with you all the time. You're not reliant on people out there, you know at your very depths, you know when you've done your best. Doing your best doesn't mean it worked. It just means you did your best. And you know when you've done your best. You know when you sit back from a situation, you go, do you know what, I gave that everything. I really gave that everything. And you know when you've done that. You know when you've done your best. You know when you've done the right or the good thing. And when you do that, when you act, because for you it's the right thing to do, because it's the right thing to do for your life, it's the good thing in your life, then you can act with confidence. Then you can build your self-worth, because you're not reliant on other people holding you up. You know, if you wake up one morning and go, do you know what? I know deep down in my soul that I need to actually change my job and go and do this thing. If you act upon that, if you do what's right for you, do what's good for you, without asking other people whether it is, without looking to the outer world for that affirmation that, yes, you've done well, yes, this is the right thing, then you can become confident, then you can grow in self-worth, because you're valuing your opinion. Valuing your opinion is such an important thing. You matter as much as the rest of the universe. So we're going to do a little exercise. I like this exercise. We mentioned that inner critic, that inner negative voice that runs you down, pulls the rug out from underneath you, reminds you of all the stuff that you kind of, you probably actually did your best, but that voice still goes, oh, well, you could have done. We all know those voices. So I want you to get comfortable. So I haven't even said it and people are fidgeting. That's wonderful. Get comfortable. In fact, you only need your, if everyone got their arms free, we're going to do this slightly. We'll do this way. Yeah. That's it. If you've got your arms free, so you can put them out like this. Bring them together, palms nice and tight together, fingers tight together, interlace the fingers like this, palms locked, palms together, thumbs locked. Oh, Sue's on the move. I'm going to give a few moments. There you go. She's good. The thumbs are up. So hands like this, palms together, fingers nice together. We're going to use your imagination. We're going to have a little bit of fun creating something that you can use to stop that inner critic. So hands like this. Point your first two fingers, the two index fingers, up to the ceiling. In a moment, I will ask you to open those about an inch apart. When you do that, just look at the gap in the middle. We're going to use the imagination and imagine they're magnets. And as they come together, as those magnets pull together and your fingers touch, then I want you to close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in. Doing that now, open those fingers up and just watch now as those fingers start drifting closer and closer together. When they touch, that's right. When they touch, just gently close your eyes a moment. Take a nice deep breath in. As you relax, just listening to the sound of my voice, keeping those hands nice and tight together. I want you to think about love, however you wish to think about that in its most wonderful and perfect form. Just feeling it, sensing it, allowing that idea and thought and feeling to be with you. And as you're thinking about that most perfect sense of love, sat there with your eyes closed, listen to my voice, your hands sticking, locking tighter. You're going to speak directly. In fact, I don't know, is it the palms or your fingers that are feeling most stuck? Whichever that is, just allow that to continue as you think about that love, listening to my voice, sat there, and I'll speak to your unconscious mind. That's your unconscious mind to help us create a little bit of control over that negative voice that sometimes can hold us back. And as your unconscious mind is taking that on board, you're sat there thinking about that love, listen to my voice, relaxing more. As you do that, when you're certain that your hands are stuck and you cannot pull them apart, gently test them. Try to pull them apart. That's it. And then when you find you cannot, just take another deep breath in, allow your hands to relax down onto your lap, or wherever's comfortable, fingers drift apart. Just continue to relax within. Listen to the sound of my voice. Become aware of that place within you that feels most comfortable and most relaxed. And allow that place, that feeling of comfort and relaxation to spin within you, flowing throughout the body, soothing any aches and tensions of the day, relaxing and helping you let go even more. Just deeper and deeper relaxed, all the way drifting down. It feels good to relax. The more you relax, the better you can feel. The better you can feel, the more you relax, just letting go. That's right. That's wonderful. That's fabulous. And I want you to imagine, to picture, to see, to hear, even to feel, even to smell the word stop and what it means. Maybe you see it in big neon lights. Maybe you just see it in front of you. Maybe you're just aware of the word stop. But when you say that word to yourself, stop, stop. Be aware of how the mind feels, the body feels, the sense of how things feel around you as you react to that word. And now we're going to get creative. I want you to use your imagination to take that stop and make it really big. Make it really big and start decorating it. Maybe you see it like big neon lights. Maybe you dress it up because Halloween's on the way, or maybe because we're only X amount of weeks away now from the big C, from big Christmas Day. Then you dress it up and make it look like it's been decorated for Christmas. Whatever you need to do to make that stop, that sense of stop, that image of stop, big, bright and vibrant, do that now. Just picture it, big, vibrant, so you can't miss it. If you were driving down a road and they held that up 100 miles away, you want to be able to see it. It's so over the toply decorated, so vibrant, so big and bright. Really picture that stop now and make that there. That's wonderful. Keep doing that. And now what I want you to do is to think about the voice of the most commanding person you have ever met or ever seen. Somebody if who they said stop, it would be like the universe would just stand still for a moment. Maybe it's a teacher who, when you were younger, would go stop, and you just wouldn't question it. You'd stop. Maybe it's an actor, somebody you look up at to, who you see act. You think, if they said stop, I'd stop. Maybe it's Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, where he stands there in the Balrog and goes, "You shall not pass." Whatever that voice is that to you would have to listen to if it said stop. Connect with that voice now. Hear that voice. Imagine that voice, and imagine it's plugged into an amplifier and you've got the dial in front of you and you're ramping that voice up, not to 10, but to 11, all the way up to 11. So when you hear that stop, it's as though the walls around you shake, and just place that sound, that voice, that stop on top of that image. So every time you have the image, you can hear that stop. But let's not stop there. I want you to add into it the most cacophonous noise you can imagine. Maybe imagine a drunk monk juggling cymbals and dropping them everywhere. Imagine 1,000 elephants all sounding off at the same time. Imagine the most huge noise you can in the background of that stop sign, that word, that stop, to the point that if you were to say that with that in mind, whatever you were thinking would have to stop there and then, because you would have nothing else to do but pay attention to that. It'd only be a moment, but in that moment, whatever you were thinking would just stop. Really put those together. See the word, see that huge decorated word, hear that commanding voice, sound that sound, stop. Really feel the presence and power of that stop. The kind of stop that, if it was shouted out at Glastonbury Festival from the main stage, would silence the 100,000 people there. Make that an epic stop in your mind. And now I want you to think, place the stop over there for a moment. And I want you to think about something you've done recently where you gave yourself a hard time, where you got that negative voice going. Think of something where you were running yourself down, putting yourself down, doubting yourself. Think of something that you've done recently where you were kind of, oh God, what were you like? Or why didn't I do that? Or what? Hear that and start to hear that negative critic. Hear that negative critic. Hear that voice running you down, telling you you're no good, telling you can't do this. If I make it really annoying to the point where you get sick of it, and now slap that stop in your mind. Say it, see the big stop, hear the noise, hear that commanding voice, and stop, and that voice stops. And every time that you hear that inner critic running yourself down, every time that inner dialogue is making you feel bad or diminishing your self-worth or confidence, you will say stop with the power of that stop. Every time you notice that negative thinking that runs you down, you just say stop in that huge voice. You see the image, you'll hear the sounds, you'll hear that voice. Stop. So I want you to allow that to happen. Just allow something that you've been running yourself down for, somewhere where you go doubt or you've been giving yourself a hard time, something that basically is taking away your confidence, something that's eating away at your self-worth. Listen to it for a few moments. And then shout that stop in your mind. Hear it, see it. Feel the vibration and power of that stop. And then once you've done that, focus on something you've achieved, something you've done well. Allow yourself to see yourself achieving that. Remember how it feels to achieve that. Tell yourself, do you know what? You're amazing. You're awesome. You can do the things you want to do. You can put your mind to it. You can achieve it. Give yourself a pep talk. Make yourself feel good about being you. Yeah, you did that thing. You can do this. You can do that. You're amazing. You are amazing. You count. The universe would be a different place without you. That's how important you are. And any time that you find yourself with that negative voice running you down, talking you out of your confidence, talking you out of your self-worth, you can say stop with that power, that wonderful, awesome power and sound, silencing that inner critic, and immediately just jump on it, giving yourself a pep talk. Give yourself a talk. Remind yourself that you do not have to think about yourself in that negative way. You can just as easily choose now to think about yourself in a positive, affirming way in the future. And anytime you feel that negative voice or hear that negative voice inside, you launch that stop. Boom, it stops, and you start with boosting yourself, pep talk, talking to yourself about things you've done well, reminding yourself of good times when you felt good and you achieved things, reminding yourself of obstacles you've overcome, remind yourself of the amazing human being that you are and the gifts and the beauty that you bring to this world. And anytime you hear that negative voice, you can just shout, stop. Taking control now of your thoughts and replacing that negative voice with affirming, positive suggestions, positive affirmations. You are awesome. You are amazing. You have so much potential inside of you. You can do this. And you can do this anytime you hear that voice. It's like when we end up doing something where we have to have our hands, maybe one hand is a bit bandaged and we have to learn to use the other hand for a while. It's just as easy as learning to use the other hand that you learn to use those other thoughts. Stopping that critic, stopping that negative things you talk to yourself about with a powerful stop. Shouting it in your mind, stop. And in the silence, start affirming the amazing human being that you are. And in a moment, I'll count from 1 to 5. 1 is where you are now. 5 can be eyes open, feeling great, refreshed, ready to have a wonderful weekend. That's number 1, every cell, fiber, and muscle of your body coming back to everyday awareness. Number 2, feeling a whoosh of energy from the tips of the toes to top of the head, energizing, refreshing, revitalizing. You are amazing. Number 3, take a deep breath in. Feel that wonderful oxygen filling the body, enlivening and vitalizing, feeling amazing. Number 4, imagine you're dancing around under a waterfall. And 5, open your eyes, stretch, feel good. Any time that you find yourself giving yourself that negative talk, stop. Just one simple command in your head. Hear it, let it shake the universe. And in the silence that follows, start with giving yourself some positive suggestions, some positive affirmations. And I want to finish today's session with a task for each of you. Over the weekend, or within a couple of days of listening to this, I invite you to sit down and write yourself a letter. Write yourself a letter affirming the things you've achieved, the obstacles you've overcome, the things that you've done that have made you feel good. It's a little bit like the video we did. The only thing is, no one ever sees this. You can be honest with yourself. You can boost yourself up for the smallest little thing through to the biggest thing, but write yourself a letter as though you were writing to a friend. Write that letter, boosting yourself, praising yourself, affirming your achievements and the awesome person that you really are. And then I want you to send it to yourself. Just send it second class. You'll get there eventually. And then put it somewhere when it arrives. And maybe that day, maybe the next day, or maybe you'll wait till a time when you need it. But at some point in the future, once you've received that letter back, open it up and reread it. And you'll know when to open it up and reread it. So that is the task, that's the challenge, and that's the end of today's session. Hope you've enjoyed that. Hope that's been good for you. There's food for thought there. It's not that everyone has to always agree with the ideas I put across. It's that those ideas help you think in different ways that help you find your own ways of being and doing those things that you want to do. Fabulous. So I'm going to just stop recording and then we can have a chat.